about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Smello.
What's up, Denise?
Hello, Mr. Don.
Well, hello to you as well. Although I got a feeling that tonight's SITREP is not going to be very good. So before you get into what I'm anticipating to be a pant load of bad news, let me welcome all the listeners to tonight's Drive Time Situation Report, hosted by the stellar Denise Simon. On the other end of this conversation is myself. My name is Don Neuen. We both have our own shows on the network. On Thursday night, Denise hosts her show, The Denise Simon Experience, and I co-host the show on Tuesday night, Cowboy Logic Radio. Hopefully many of you are listening to both of those along with this Drive Time SITREP. For those of you that are new to the show, I am in my personal vehicle. I'm driving home. In a moment, Denise is going to timestamp the show so you know when this conversation is taking place. But I'm driving home after a long and grueling day. Denise, I got to tell you, I am hammered right now. Hammered, tired. And I'm heading home, and I'm calling into my buddy, Denise Simon, who's going to update me on, I trust, everything that's been going on in Manafort's trial, as well as the deal that Cohen has cut. So without any further ado, Denise, let's go ahead and timestamp the show. And what do you say we get after it?
All right. It is 8:45 p.m. on the 21st of August in the year of our Lord, 2018.
And I would say that we need that Lord more now than ever, right?
Indeed we do.
All right. So bring me up to speed. I'm going to drive and listen.
Well, I'm actually going to throw you a little bit of a curveball, because I'm going to talk about a particular case, as long as we're going to talk about some weird news and bad news. It's going to go back to 1947. How about that one?
That's a while ago.
Indeed it is. So, we have this Nazi, and this Nazi came to the United States in 1947. He became a citizen in 1957. I'm sorry, he came to the United States in 1949. He became a citizen in 1957 after lying, imagine that, on his citizen application. Well, in 2001, he actually admitted to government officials that he was a trained Nazi at a facility in Poland, and he participated in something called Operation Reinhardt. And that is where about 6,000 Jews were killed in a Troniki labor camp. Well, Don, in 2003, a judge revoked his citizenship, and he was ordered to be deported in 2004. And he was ordered to be deported back to Germany. But Germany wouldn't take him. So he got to stay all this time. Now this cat is about 95 years old. He had to be removed from his home in Queens, New York, which I think is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez's district, by the way. And they removed him strapped to some kind of a wheelchair with this whole big cover over him, like he was straitjacketed to the wheelchair, and put him into some kind of a vehicle, kind of looked like a quasi ambulance truck thing, and I guess put his butt on an airplane and sent him back to Germany. Now, apparently there was some kind of extensive negotiations that the United States went through in order to get Germany to take him. But it's only been, 14 years?
Yeah, that he's been milling around here. And when did he come to the United States? In 49?
1949. And he, by the way, is the last of the Nazis. We've had several other cases. Poking around, it looked like we had around 50 or 60 Nazis that had made it to the United States. And I don't know all the cases.
And we knew that's what they were?
No, we came to find out later, but...
And when did we find out that this old fart was a Nazi? What year?
2001.
Stunning.
It is stunning. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. And not only did we find out that we took away his citizenship and deported him essentially in the same year, but great. The judge said, bam, you're ordered deported. But we have, let's see, I think about 30 countries that refuse to take people back for various reasons. And I guess we put some significant pressure on Germany to take this cat back.
So when did he finally leave?
Today.
Excellent.
I watched the video.
Why weren't we sending him to one of these South American countries that harbored these Nazi war criminals?
Because we can't. It is actually against the law to send somebody to a third country.
Mm-hmm.
But Obama did that often. Remember that?
Yeah, but why would we not try this man and imprison him?
Because he didn't do a war crime here. His war crime was in Poland/Germany.
Well,
I mean, Nuremberg is long since over.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right.
Remarkable story. Remarkable.
Yeah, that is remarkable. Well, let's hope that he just goes back to Germany and withers away and dies, and let hell deal with him. All right.
And then we're going to go. Now we're going to travel to Iowa, because we have arrested one Christian Rivera, 24 years old, and he is the one that has confessed to killing Molly Tibbetts. They found her. He confessed. We knew about him apparently due to some kind of surveillance camera with his black Camaro. He had been following her for a couple of days, and apparently they went and somehow got him. He confessed. He took the officials, law enforcement, to where her body was in a cornfield about 10 or 15 miles from her home. And she was covered over with corn plants. There is word that she was brutally murdered, but we don't know what those details are. He had been in the country illegally from Mexico at a minimum of 4 years in Iowa, but he may have been in the United States illegally up to 7 years. We don't know all those details yet.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, Molly Tibbetts' father only flew back. I think he actually lives in California, but he only flew back to California today, and then got this news and had to turn around and come back. And so it is unclear that ICE has a detainer on him. I don't know whether they had already had a detainer on him or put the detainer on him today. I do not know those details, but there is a detainer.
But regardless, I think we should abolish ICE. Don't you think so?
Well, I can just about see this cat's picture in some kind of a, campaign TV advertising going into midterms, can't you?
Oh, I would, if you and I were handling these things, absolutely.
I mean,
that's not the case, I mean, we've got, here in Georgia, we've got Stacey Abrams running for governor, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
They ought to be plastering things about her all over the media, and I just don't see it. I think Kemp needs to pull out the knives and start filleting things much more surgically than is going on. And that's just, that's the way Republicans are for the most part. The Democrats will sling the mud and bring the stuff up in these campaign ads, and the Republicans are way too genteel. And that needs to come to an end.
I hope for the sake of the listeners that none of them are subscribers or readers of GQ, otherwise known as Gentleman's Quarterly Magazine. GQ has been one of the most disgusting, liberal, progressive, almost Marxist publications out there. And as soon as the claim or the news hit about this Nazi cat in Queens, New York, that got deported, this cat over at GQ writes an article and says, this only came out today so we can show so ICE can, and the government can show how honorable and noble ICE as an organization or a law enforcement agency is.
Well,
he hasn't written on Molly Tibbetts, though.
Right, of course not. And that's, that's just typical of left-wing rags. That's all GQ is. It's just a left-wing rag, like most of them. All right, well, I'm assuming at some point we're going to get to the Manafort and Cohen situation. Before we do that, I want to welcome all the listeners that have just joined in. You're listening to the Drive Time Sit Rep. This is a special Downer edition of the Drive Time Sit Rep featuring Denise Simon and her Downer report. Denise, I'm really hoping that by the time that I get out into Carroll County, which is usually where I am, unless I hit some god-awful traffic, that you're going to bring me up from all this with something. But I'm not very optimistic tonight for some reason.
No, it was a rough day at the office for sure.
Well, and ladies and gentlemen, I need to let you guys know that I can sometimes see into Denise's demeanor for my sit reps based on some of the one-word messages that I get via Skype. And tonight's was very simply disgusted. And so I knew I wasn't going into a warm and fuzzy one tonight.
No. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you how bad it was for media. I happened to be watching the 6 o'clock Fox News with Brett Baer, and which is really the one that I turned the volume back on. It's on all day, but it's on mute. But when it comes to his show, I'll turn the sound on. And at the very end of the show, Brett Baer always closes with something happy, some kind of, some kind of story, whatever it may be, something cute, something fun, something happy, something whatever. And tonight, it was just obvious with the look on his face and the things that he had been reporting for the whole hour, he couldn't find anything. So they just went to a video that had some puppies in it, and they just showed some puppies. And then he turned the show over to Martha McCallum, and he said, "Martha, I'm ending on puppies." And that was it. I mean, that's how bad the day was today.
All right, well, I got to take a look at, we got about 10 minutes before we have to go to the bottom of the hour break. Where do you want to go in the remaining time of this segment?
Well, we'll do the second segment on the two things dealing with Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort. So we'll cover some detail in that. In the meantime, we're up to, the list is growing on those that are signing on to the petition / letter, whatever we want to call it, rebuking Trump's removal of security clearance for former CIA Director John Brennan. When I published a piece about it, there were 177 signatures on it. At last look, we're close to 190, maybe even 200 by now. I was really quite disgusted with former Special Operations Admiral McRaven and his letter that he penned to the Washington Post, saying that it would be an honor if Trump would strip him of his security clearance, so he could stand in solidarity, essentially. And I'm really paraphrasing here, with John Brennan. He went on to say in this letter that the Trump administration has embarrassed the United States with a reputation worldwide. It's very hard to begin to explain how things are to the next generation because of this president. I mean, he just really went off. I did get a text message from a friend of mine who is in special operations, but he's not in the Tampa area. And they are so disgusted, or at least this text message was conveying that they were so disgusted with McRaven that they have some kind of special operations reunion event from time to time or every year. And there is chatter going around that they're going to uninvite McRaven. They're not going to extend the invitation. Now, whether that holds true or not, I don't know. But now we have colossal division within the ranks of the military, obviously, and then certainly within the intelligence community. So it's a real infection here, Don, it's contagious and it's spreading, and it's almost more than words can begin to describe here at this point. I don't know if there are things out there that should be cause for unity. If for nothing else, it's, the heartbroken, feeling and emotion that we have on Molly Tibbetts. But I'm not even seeing that.
No, you won't. You won't. You will not. And I hope Trump stands his ground on this. I really do.
I do too.
And strip the admiral. I quite frankly, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago on a SITREP show. I don't really care how having security clearance credentials can benefit John Brennan or anybody else when they try to move into the private sector and do their thing. I don't care about that at all in any way. I'm sure you've seen this. You probably were well aware of it. Our buddy Tonto had his credentials stripped from him by John Brennan for going against John Brennan's demand that he play the fake video card with regard to Benghazi. And probably all of those guys over there, Tonto and the rest of them. I'm over this stuff. I am seriously over this stuff.
I will tell you, it's very hard to be in the mix of it every day for 12, 14, or 15 hours. It's very hard to see all this pass by my desk and across my screens and through my computers and my cell phones and, all this. I mean, it's an avalanche every single day. But I will say something about the security clearance deal that I want to make this distinct point before we go to commercial, and that is those people that have security clearance, whatever level it may be, whether they are in government or out of government at some kind of a contracting position with a government contractor, what comes with that is what I would call, because it is part of security clearance, is public trust. And that is a big part of a level of security clearance. And with what some of these 100 and some odd signatures and John Brennan have done is essentially broken the public trust.
That's a good point. Ellen Ratner was on running her mouth the other night on Fox about this subject. And I just couldn't disagree with her more. She's talking about, you've got different levels and there's different reasons why they speak. I don't find that. If you're no longer holding a position with the federal government where you need to have security clearance and the credentials that go along with it, you don't need them. Because they can, they can bring that back into the fray anytime they want to. Anytime they need. If we need John Brennan's expertise, we can grant him his credentials and bring him back. Now, granted, he wouldn't do it. But
well, I have often said, when somebody has security clearance and they leave government for whatever reason, there's a regime change or, their term is up or whatever, we let them keep their security clearance for another week. We debrief them on whatever it is that is, of immediate attention. We get it from them. We give them a handshake and send them on their way. But we have all of these external advisory boards. We have the Defense Policy Board, and we have the CIA Advisory Board, and we've got the this and the that. A lot of big corporation CEOs have security clearance because of the travel that they do globally in the rogue countries that they do business with. They have security clearance. Well, I mean, it's out of control. It's virtually out of control.
Yeah, but very few of them have the security clearance that somebody like a John Brennan has. True. I wonder if our buddy James Mitchell, Dr. Jim Mitchell, had his security clearance stripped from him when Obama shut him down.
I have no idea. I can't answer
I
that.
may have to ask him that. All right, so we got a couple of minutes before we got to go to break. Ladies and gentlemen, I would encourage you during the break to go visit Denise Simon's website. Her site is founderscode.com. And at that website, you will find all of her great work. She usually posts between 4 and 6 articles a day, especially during the week, sometimes on the weekends. And this is a website that you can go to that has already been vetted for you, which means that you can post it, repost it, discuss it, quote from it, share it, like it, and you can do it all with integrity, because you know that Denise Simon has already taken the pains to vet every syllable of every word that she puts on her website. Now, in the right-hand corner of her website, you can stick your email address into a little box. And the beauty of that is that all of her posts will then come to you singularly in an email form, to where you can click on it. You can see the title of the post is the subject, and then you can click on it whenever you got the time to read it. So I really encourage you to go visit her website. There's another site that she contributes to quite a bit, and that is politicalvanguard.com. That website is run by our good buddy Tom Del Beccaro. Many of you guys know who he is. He's been a guest on Cowboy Logic countless times. Denise, I'm sure you've had him on your show at least a dozen times. And that is another well-vetted website. So while we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen, please go check out those two websites. We're going to be back in about 3 minutes. You're listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon, and my name is Don Neuen.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
This is Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience. When I'm not debating with Donna Fiducia about politics, I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio. Why, you ask? Because outside of my blog, founderscode.com, and my own radio show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic is by far the most entertaining and informative radio show on planet Earth. Plus, Don makes me feel guilty if I don't listen to his radio show every week.
Hi, this is Donna Fiducia, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. For 28 years, I was in the mainstream media, most recently as an anchor at the Fox News Channel. No more. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has completely failed the American people. Radio networks like Talk America Radio will not fail you. Radio shows like Cowboy Logic Radio will not fail you. Check out the entire roster of over 60 weekly radio shows by visiting talkamericaradio.us. That's talkamericaradio.us.
TalkAmericaRadio.us.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. Failed the American people. Failed the American people. Failed the American people. Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon, and my name is Don Neuen. We just got back from about a 3-minute break, and now we're going to get after it again, and I think that we're going to Manafort and Cohen. Denise, bring us up to speed.
Well, I'm going to first cover Michael Cohen, because this one does have some connective tissue to Donald Trump. And I need to probably prime where put out a primer on this for where I'm going. We have to remember, sadly so, that Donald Trump and his entire family were Democrats. Those in Donald Trump's circle or his orbit of his organization and whatnot, including Michael Cohen, were Democrats. So it wasn't several months ago that, New York went in and raided Michael Cohen's office and took all in the hotel and something else, whatever it is, and took a whole bunch of things. And so today, Michael Cohen pled guilty to 8 federal charges. Those included campaign finance related counts and tax evasion and bank fraud charges. So he pled guilty to 8 of them. One in particular that has the connective tissue to Trump is where Michael Cohen set up a company in 2016 to pay some hush money to an adult film star. Now, I don't know whether that particular payment was made to Little Miss Stormy Daniels. And that payment, I think, was in the amount of about $130,000. Okay, so what ended up happening is apparently, and Rudy Giuliani did confirm this a couple of months ago, that Trump reimbursed this front company, if you will, that Michael Cohen set up the $130,000. Now, the big question then becomes, is this a campaign finance violation? Well, it'll be very interesting to see the arguments on that one, and if there will be some kind of a criminal charge, and can you do that with a sitting president? So there's lots of legalese and arguments to be made here. But I would say this, when it comes to campaign finance, pretty much every single candidate Well, no, let me say that in a better way. Many politicians violate campaign finance law in some form or fashion. And violating campaign finance has its levels of violations. I don't think $130,000 is a huge violation. I mean, it could be no more serious than perhaps a jaywalking charge. But anyway, that's where we are now.
All right, hold on.
Stand
by a second. Hold on 1 second. Couple of things I want to interject based on everything you've just said. Number one, excuse me. Number one, how do we know that Trump didn't use his own personal money to silence as hush money for this? And if he used his personal money,
have.
Then how can that be a violation of campaign finance laws?
Because
if he used his personal money.
Because what Rudy Giuliani said was to influence and to make a scandal go away during an election season.
I don't know. I think that's walking a tight line there. The other thing
I don't know. That's why I prefaced it the way I did. There'll be lots of legal arguments on that one.
Well, and the thing is, the bottom line is, if he used money that came in to his campaign from donors, then that's a big problem for the guy. Mm-hmm. But I don't see him doing that.
I don't either, but I don't know.
All right. The second thing that I want to bring up is that Mark Levin, about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, had the former head of the Federal Elections Commission on his show a couple of times discussing this very thing. And this man, without any reservation, said that there's absolutely no way that this type of an arrangement with regard to Stormy Daniels or this other woman for $150,000 would be classified as an election campaign violation. And he was adamant about it. And this is just not some schmo. This is the guy that was the head of the FEC. And I don't recall what his name is. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go back to Levin's archives, and I'm sure you can find it. But I don't know if you heard that show, Denise, but he was adamant that this was a non-issue.
As I said, there will be legal arguments on both sides. I'm not particularly worried about it, except that we started off this show talking about the major divisions that are going on. So you know that the left and the Democrats, they're seizing on this one already. Okay? So I'm just putting it out there to be prepared. I'm not making a judgment.
I agree with you. And something you and I talked about almost 2 years ago is that the left is going to do everything they can to strangle Donald Trump in the court system. And if you think this is going away, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way it will.
Well,
they're going to do everything they can to strangle him.
And they're already seizing on the fact that on April 10th of 2018, this past April, after they went in there and seized, raided Cohen's offices, Donald Trump puts out a tweet that says, attorney-client privilege is dead. So, that tweet may come back to haunt him. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there for where we need to be.
The bottom line is this. If anything can come back to haunt Donald Trump, it will.
Okay. Now, I will say what was very disappointing, because remember I started off this particular topic by saying they were Democrats. Well, Michael Cohen goes out and gets himself Lanny Davis as his lawyer. Well, Lanny Davis has been a lawyer for the Clintons almost forever, at least one of them. So Lanny Davis today, he puts out a tweet, and it says, Michael Cohen took this step today so his family can move on to the next chapter. This is Michael fulfilling his promise made on July the 2nd to put his family and country first and tell the truth about Donald Trump. The second tweet. Today, he stood up and testified under oath that Donald Trump directed him to commit a crime by making payments to two women for the principal purpose of influencing an election. If those payments were a crime for Michael Cohen, then why wouldn't they be a crime for Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, this is not a good day.
No, it is
not a good day.
It is not a good day.
Although I do want to remind the listeners that based on previous Department of Justice documentation, you are not able to indict a sitting president. The Department of Justice has laid down the law on that. You cannot indict a sitting president. Now, the trick, ladies and gentlemen, is to keep him a sitting president. And the thing is, when you've got every possible roadblock and every possible obstruction and every way you turn, you've got people that are trying to take this man down, the only thing that he's got going for him is the American voter. And I've been talking about this for months now, about how critical this midterm election is. If we allow the left to take the House of Representatives, or if we allow the left to take the Senate, or both, Donald Trump is done. He will not get anything more accomplished, and we will spend the next 2 years listening to nothing but people like Maxine Waters beat her gums about impeaching 45. And this is what the left is absolutely waiting for, is the November elections, because they believe they can take the House and they believe they've got a good shot at taking the Senate. If we allow this to happen, we're done for the next 2 years. We're done. Don't you agree, Denise?
I do.
So please, ladies and gentlemen, you got to tap on the shoulder of everybody you know that can vote. You've got to educate them. If they're undecided, you have to make them decided. And you've got to go out in force in order to save the office of the presidency. And this is as serious, in my opinion, as the 2016 general election. Because if we lose that House, we're going to lose this president. They may not get him out of office, but they will shut him down to the point where there's absolutely nothing that he is going to be able to do. And everything that he has done that you may like will be reversed. All right, Denise, I'm off my soapbox.
One other thing that happened in the courtroom this afternoon with Michael Cohen is that the U.S. District Judge by the name of William Pauley, he asked Cohen if he knew at the time regarding this money in the fake company, if you will, if he knew at the time that his action was illegal. And Cohen replied, "Yes, Your Honor." So,
well,
sentencing for a...
hey, listen, how many times have you told me, hey, they're going to plea it out. They're going to plea it out. They're going to plea it out. People will say absolutely anything to save their ass in a plea bargain.
Well,
and I just hope that he's perjured himself here.
The sentencing is set for December the 12th. He's on bail, which was set at $500,000. And right now, it looks like because of his other charges, the 8 to which he pled guilty, can hold sentencing somewhere between 3 and 5 years. So that is necessarily what he is facing. What happens between now and then, I really don't know. So I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I guess I'm just kind of like a weather forecaster. Just be prepared because, there's a tornado that's going to come.
No doubt. No doubt. I can't imagine the field day the mainstream media is having after today. I bet they are to the point of being orgasmic. Now, Let me remind you people again, the only soldiers that Donald Trump has that mean anything are the American voter. That's the only armed forces that he's got. And we're either going to let him down or we're going to support him. And the Never Trumpers need to get their asses to the polls and help save this presidency. All right, Denise. I could not be more adamant about this.
Let's move on to Paul Manafort. Fortunately, the case of Paul Manafort does not have any connective tissue, at least this one, because there's another one that he's facing in New York. But this particular case, for which there were 18 counts, does not have any connections to Trump at all. Manafort was found guilty of 8 of the 18 charges. The other 10, the judge declared a mistrial.
And what was the reason for the mistrial?
They couldn't agree. You couldn't get a jury to agree.
All right.
So, where does that put us with Paul Manafort? Well, fortunately, there is none of this collusion, and there is no collaboration, and there is no connectivity to Trump when it came to these, 18 counts of financial fraud. So, he was 5 of the counts were submitting false tax returns. 1 was failing to report a foreign bank and financial accounts, and then 2 counts of bank fraud. Those right there have a maximum sentence in prison of 80 years. I don't believe that he'll get any of that. I don't believe that there's anything. He can plead out. But I don't know what he's necessarily going to cough up unless there's something else going on with this case that's in New York. And that one I'm not qualified to really speak of. So I can't really determine what is ahead when it comes to trial number 2, if you will, or case number 2.
Yeah, I got you. All right, go back to Cohen for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Why would have Cohen not kept his damn mouth shut?
Well, he did.
And hold on. And then rolled the dice as to whether Trump would have pardoned him.
Well, he still could. But he was not.
Could? He's already opened his mouth.
Well, no. Because he was not a Cohen was not a cooperating witness. He really didn't say anything. Okay? He didn't say, well, Trump did this, and Trump told me to do this, and here's the documents, and here's... None of that happened, and he ain't coughing any of that up. Okay? He just said, I plead guilty, and what I did was illegal, and the rest of it came from Lanny Davis. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so Cohen never said, I violated campaign election laws.
He did not.
I knew it was against the law, and it was under the direction of Donald Trump.
He did not.
Cohen never said that.
In those specific words. And Lanny Davis, I read you the 2 tweets. So it was Lanny Davis that if there's any, repercussions, it could be on Lanny Davis. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But it sure did sound like he was quoting Cohen.
Well, yeah, and it really wasn't. He was just kind of packaging a summary, he being Lanny Davis.
Yeah. Why the hell would Cohen pick Lanny Davis?
Because he's a Democrat, and he's just as sleazy as Paul Manafort. And here's the fascinating thing.
I agree with
Well,
you.
here's the fascinating thing about Michael Cohen. A lot of people don't know this, but he was, the deputy treasurer of the RNC? Remember, this guy's a Democrat. And then here's the other fascinating thing. Sean Hannity use Cohen for legal counsel from time to time, not as a lawyer to hear Hannity say it, but as, just for legal advice. So there's egg on Hannity's face too. And I'm not trying
Hannity never paid him. Hannity never paid him anything.
I didn't say that's what I said. It wasn't as a lawyer-client relationship, but just as legal advice. Okay? I use those words specifically so nobody can assume something else.
All right, I got you. Fair enough. All right. What else, Denise? Come on, you got to dig in there and find something that's going to put a smile on my face. And all my beloved listeners here.
I can't, because now I'm going to go someplace else that is even worse.
Hold on, before you do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to apologize to you on behalf of Denise Simon and me for this downer of a show. But at the same time, I will remind you that you are obtaining, free of charge, way ahead of the curve information from this stellar individual on the other end of this conversation, Denise Simon. So hat tip to you, Denise. It's just that, what's going to happen now is after the show, I see it already. After the show, everybody, including myself, are going to get out our Janice Ian LPs, and we're going to put on that downer, depressed song at 17. Okay? So, at any rate, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get back to this, and we're going to get even darker here with Denise's next update.
We have a former Marine, a Republican congressman who represents part of San Diego and Riverside, California, by the name of Duncan Hunter. He and his wife, Margaret, were indicted today by a grand jury on what? Campaign finance fraud.
Oh, gosh.
Well, they converted and stole more than $750,000. It was a 47-page indictment. They used the money to take trips to Italy, Hawaii, London. They even used the money to cover school tuition, dental work, theater tickets.
Well, I tell you, Denise, who's the lady from Florida that got popped January 1st or 5th of this last year?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Hey, if we're going to stand and try to have justice, you got to have it on both sides of the aisle. So see you later, Duncan. Not cool, brother.
No, it's not cool. It's not cool. So this is on the heels of, remember, we just had this other one last week, which was Congressman Chris Collins of New York, who's up for re-election himself.
Yeah. Hey, well, you know what? Here's the deal. If the Republicans keep doing this, there's no way in hell we'll be able to hold on to the House.
Well, again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. I'm just telling you the way it is. Now, I would say let's trot on over to our little Imran Awan Pakistani IT guys. Remember them?
Yeah, the guys that got the slap on the wrist.
And all the Debbie Wasserman Schultzes and all the Democrats that paid the salaries for this fraudulent operation. Well, the judge came out and said, hey, nope, we're not going to do anything. Why? Because they've already been a victim of public persecution. There will be no jail time.
How do you spell broken? Do you feel like the system is terribly broken?
Well, if you get arrested in the state of Florida for a DUI, it's going to cost you $10,000. You're going to lose your license, blah, 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 blah. If you get caught in it having a DUI in Pennsylvania, you just get a ticket. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Simply amazing. Simply amazing.
I don't even know where it's important for everybody to necessarily understand that we have some really big brokenness that's going on out there. And this is a big problem. Apparently a lot of people are looking at campaign finance, but here's the interesting thing. Where's the Hillarys of the world in that campaign finance?
Exactly. We've been beating that drum for a lot of years.
Here's an interesting thing, because going back to the Michael Cohen thing and paying off somebody, blah, 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 because they wanted to have a problem or a scandal go away. In other words, it was influencing the campaign or the success of the campaign or the spirit of the campaign, right? Okay. But didn't that happen with Hillary? Didn't that happen because the FBI made the email server stuff go away?
Exactly. But Donald Trump's not Hillary Clinton, nor is he a active Democrat right now.
I bring it up because I think it's very important that we need to look at the monies or the favors in kind that affected the spirit of integrity and honesty and credibility with Hillary Clinton.
Well, there is none.
I'm just saying that there was money.
Yeah, but there is none when it comes to Hillary Clinton.
I understand that, but in order to make problems go away, scandals, obviously Donald had his number of scandals. Well, so did Hillary. And so if we want to end this drive time SITREP report in such a way that might be somewhat positive, then the diatribe that you went on to the listeners and telling them that they got to dig in their heels, then they need to dig in the heels on saying that in kind, using federal agencies to help Hillary Clinton isn't any different really than what happened with Stormy Daniels and Karen, whatever her name is, the other woman, correct?
Correct, except it is on such a larger scale. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we got to wrap it up tonight. We are done. I am in Carroll County. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for devoting 1 hour of your time to the Drive Time SITREP. Denise Simon and I are grateful and appreciative of the fact that you do that every week. Please tell your friends and family about the show. Denise Simon, take us home as only you do.
And God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.